Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Polaris. Of course, we'll kickstart things straight away with the side quest pre-show. My name is Kai, joined with the lovely Naoya Mizuki, as per usual, as it's another beautiful week of Valorant here in the UK and Nordics region. But before we get into any of this, Sam, how you doing?
I'm really excited. You know, we're reaching kind of the halfway mark here. Standings are starting to kind of flesh themselves out a little bit, and teams starting to know where they stand. And yeah, I mean, this is where the pressure for some teams is really on, and for some teams they can kind of kick back a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is kind of where we can also start to get a pretty good guess of who's going to be realistically in our top four and who unfortunately isn't, and we can start to kind of make those guesses about who unfortunately is going to finish dead last, all of that unfortunate circumstances. It's a kind of that middling period where the stakes aren't super high, but at the same time it can still get somewhat of an understanding. And of course, for those who don't know what this is, Polaris of course is a tournament to go to a qualification tournament after this, and we look for kind of the best team from the UK and Nordics region respectively. And of course, there's only one representative from here. There's multiple different tournaments across a variety of regions. You got Spain, Germany, etc, etc, etc. And of course, off the back of that, one lucky participant will be joining VCT. So, you know, big stakes ahead of it. Go on, hit me.
Not this season. So obviously VCT is over for this year, but there is a big finals event that's happening at the end of next month. The top team from each region will be playing off against one another to determine who is the best region in EMEA, and obviously it's going to be us. It's really, really exciting. I say that knowing that we didn't get a team into VCT last season, but you know what? This time I have hope. So no hopes for VCT this time around, but there's a lot at stake nonetheless. Obviously, these teams want to prove themselves as the best that EMEA has to offer.
Yeah, precisely that. And of course, we're getting off the back of last week's brilliant kind of showing. We saw some somewhat upsets, I guess you could put it. We'll take a look at the highlights themselves. We start things off with XL taking on Kova, and this game was a joy to watch. Of course, we saw some brilliant individual prowess. XL started to find their form a little bit later into the series, but I mean, two very evenly matched sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this went a lot more closely contested than maybe I would have expected going into it. And particularly when you think about Kova from last season. Now, obviously, Kova are trying to make a distinction from where they were last season. They're looking much better. They're looking much stronger. And you can really see how much work they've put into it to be able to go toe-to-toe with XL, who, of course, was one of our top ranking teams in the last season. And indeed in this season as well. They're sharing that top spot at the moment. But I'm really happy to see that all of these teams are slowly starting to show improvement, and this banger of a match is just a perfect example of that. It's of course sad for Kova. Unfortunately, that puts them just out of the top 4 spot. But as we said a little bit earlier on, this is where the pressure starts to build. There's still a chance for them to make a comeback.
Yeah, exactly. And then we follow things up with Human Tripwires taking on HEET. And this one as well was, to me, quite surprising. I think I came in with this confidence about HEET being able to refine themselves, find that form that we expected of them. But no, I mean, credit where it's due. Human Tripwires had a very strong performance. I was alongside MP for that. He was the only one to predict that Human Tripwires will come out on top, and he absolutely hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a team trying to distinguish themselves from last season, right? Human Tripwires, also very middling performance, didn't really do as well as they would have hoped, made a couple of changes coming into this season, and wow, blew me away. I also think that maybe we overestimate HEET a lot, and of course we're going to be seeing them again a little bit later, but you look to their team and you see a player like Eccles and you're immediately like, oh, well, there you go, that's the team to beat. And you got to remember, you know, one player doesn't a team make, and yes, some of the other players are really, really good players, but when you kind of put them all together, they're not necessarily in that top spot. And well, there you go, you can see them there in 6th position, having only won one of their matches this season.
Yeah, it's really not been the kind of dream start from them. Take a look through the standings as they are. Finest, of course, XL now relatively at the top in terms of the round differential, but of course Human Tripwires just in behind. Same can be said for Hukazi. In all 4 there's top 4 and the exact same score in terms of win and losses, and it all comes down to those ever so fine margins of rounds, right? And that's a huge thing, especially leading into the end of the season. And then just outside of that, we've got Kova 2-2, HEET 1-3, same with H2O, and of course bring up the rear is that of Alliance 0-4, yet to get off the board, of course, as they lost to H2O not too long ago.
Yeah. I mean, I love how closely contested this season is. Again, you cast your mind back to the previous season, and it wasn't this close. There were like 2 teams, Alliance and XL, who were, well, excelling. They were kind of slapping their opposition around, and they performed really well, got themselves up to the top 10. Star were also up there, but I don't think we had a 4-way split. So early on in the tournament. This is absolutely ridiculous for all of the top 4 teams to be 3-1. So there's a lot to kind of get through here. And, you know, Human Tripwires, again, being one of those top 4, super proud of how much they've accomplished. Hookahs as well, another team that have stuck together and that have made massive improvements for themselves. And of course, I got to mention H2O. You know, we had the pleasure of interviewing Jaff for their very first winners interview in the history of Polaris, and that was such a treasure to see. And you know, he was so happy that they finally managed to get themselves a win on the board. But of course, that puts Alliance, our previous season top 1, top 2 team, at an 0-4 record. And of course, yes, they went through a huge roster overhaul. They also, shortly after the start of the season, had to bring on 2 subs, including their coach. So they're in a bit of a topsy-turvy situation right now. And as far as I understand it, they still haven't found a permanent fixture for those last 2 spots.
Yeah.
So things are looking a little tumultuous for them, and it's really unfortunate. But hey-ho, as we said, this isn't the step up into VCT this time around. So hopefully we'll start to see something better from them into the next season. Maybe next year, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think those changes need to come, you know, sooner rather than later. I think Reliance, unfortunately, it's a stark reality towards that of last season, and it's really just not been the greatest of starts for them. But this is a trial and error period. They are playing with their coach at the moment, understanding as well. It's not the easiest of scenarios, but we can touch on more detail on that later. But I do like what you were mentioning about how in that top 4, it's all down to rounds, right? And that's what makes things so exciting compared to, as you mentioned, last season. I mean, XL and Alliance last season went flawless through qualifications, didn't drop a map. And then in the season as well, more or less untouched by anyone. I think we started off last season, it was against 10 stars, 13-0. I mean, not often you see results like that. I mean, Alliance and XL really made a name for themselves, but it's a different season here now, much more evenly matched. Let's take a look at our talent predictions, of course, for today's matchup, though. We can start to get an idea of where we're all leaning. And of course, for myself, I've gone for the HEET XL winning here, and you've gone for exactly the only difference, in fact, is Crema has gone for Alliance. Now, what's the thought process there?
That's a bold move, Cotton.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that maybe you kind of put faith in the Alliance organization and knowing that they will have top tier talent. And as we've seen, they have got some phenomenal talent on that team. And you're kind of putting faith in that, okay, they just lost against the team who have gone on a complete losing streak, right? And you're banking on them and their Danish pride to come through and say, hold on, fellas, this is not where we lose out. And you also bear in mind that HEET have only won 1 match so far. I mean, it's not that much more when you think about it. So maybe you're kind of leaning into that a little bit. You're leaning into the mind and their ability to bounce back into this. Also, you're kind of hoping for an upset win because he is only on 7 points. And so you're kind of hoping that if this does happen, then of course that'll bounce him forward in the predictions. Aside from that, not too sure what the thought process going into that one is. I think it is a little bit sad that we've all kind of agreed across the board that this is what the outcome is going to be. But I think it is a little bit predictable, you know, as we mentioned, Alliance and H2O skirting the bottom there, HEET not too far behind, and then of course XL, one of our top 4 teams. Realistically, it should be very straightforward. But I've said that before and I've been wrong before, so.
I'm exactly the same. I mean, on paper, it looks like these results should go only one way, but we can talk about them when we get to them. Before we do that, though, it's time to wrap things up here in the SideQuest pre-show. But so before we do, we're going to tell you to go and check out the socials. We say it every time, and it's oh so simple. They'll pop up below our heads. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's so easy. ValLeague_NE. Nice and simple. Go and give them a follow so we get all the information about when the games are, what games are coming up, and of course, all of that beautiful content as the weeks progress. It's the place to go. But ladies and gentlemen, that sums things up. We are now going to get ready in preparation stages for HEET taking on Alliance, a big game down at the bottom of the standings, and who can just about keep their head above water. But before we do, we're going to throw things to a break. So ladies and gentlemen, when we are back, we'll build up that game. See you in a moment.
Wally.
Yeah, Wally. Wally. Wally.
No, 100% Wally. I love him to death. He's not toxic with the he's not toxic with us. He's toxic in rank, but he's 100% most toxic.
Yeah.
It's probably beating G2 on Ascent, 13-5. It was one of my first big officials. I remember feeling it feeling really good, so it has to be that.
I didn't plant the bomb on Split.
That's a good one.
We were playing Split overtime. It was a brawl, and yeah, we did some last second go plant the bomb calls, and time ran out, and I just jumped in bed crying, man. I think that would have changed a lot if we won that game, actually. So
Yeah.
instead, they got the free ride, so it is what it is. That's why we're still trying to get that championship title so we can erase that one,
I think being open-minded is a key part of improving as a player, because this game is ever-changing, right? If you're locked in one way of playing, one way of thinking about the game, then I think you will not come far.
Something very important to going pro is learning to improve, because it's not as simple as just playing ranked and grinding the game. That's you will get far, but you won't get to the top. Like Cider said, it's very important that you learn to talk as a team.
Me, 100%. Back when I used IGL, I forgot it every round. I would always forget either armor, my shotgun, everything, every round.
Intentional throwing. Yeah. Nah, I mean, it's not intentional throwing. It's more of a check out and doesn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
Better old teammate John, he used to have all sorts of issues with his PC, but other than that, we're usually fine.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Polaris. Of course, now we can start to build the narrative heading into game number one. And I think it's safe to say, Sam, this one's quite exciting. It's the battle at the bottom, but of course it's one that has a lot to do with it. I mean, we're trying to see who's the teams who could just keep in the standings without dropping in towards relegation. It's a very kind of inopportune place to be, but all the same, quite an exciting match. It was HEET taking on Alliance.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think that Alliance are pretty much out of contention at this point. Even if they win the next 3 games in a row, that puts them at a 3-4 record, and it's just not enough, unfortunately. But HEET, on the other hand, 1-3. If they can string 3 games together, puts them at 4-3. I mean, it's tough, but it's possible, right? There's a lot of permutations that have to do with the teams above them and how they perform over the next few weeks, but at this stage, they can't afford to lose even a single game. So they have to be on tip-top form, and they have to start here. This is the beginning of that uphill climb for them. So I actually think that this is our most important game of the day, possibly even of the week, just because of the impact that it might have on HEET and their potential of, making it into that playoff bracket.
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit more about Heat as well. Okay, you mentioned quite nicely about how it does seem realistically that Heat, we were expecting a lot of them, and we haven't really seen it. And I think the question is kind of when the Heat deliver to the way we'd hoped for them. With the big names they've got on this roster, we really expected something special, and it's not been the dream starts for them with a team that's got a stacked lineup. I mean, they've got Eccles, they've got Monster, big names in there who have been kind of really making a difference individually, but as a team, it's not been that great. Only 1-3.
Yeah, I mean, you even look at someone like Kenyon, who I think is one of the really big ones here that has made a massive impact for the team as well. So like you said, really big names. Wall and Monstrum have been around for a while as well. You and I have had a chance to kind of follow a lot of their career in the T2 scene, and Eccles and Remoy slightly newer. But of course, Eccles, everybody knows Eccles. He's got one of the most storied histories in Valorant. He's been here, he's been NA, he's been just about everywhere. And he's built up a wealth of experience, which I think does a lot to help this Heat team. And it's clear why, you know, he came in kind of as a sub towards the start of the season, and Heat were like, wow, this is exactly what we need for our team. They sign him, they get him on board, and it's the best decision I think they could have made. But I think that the time they've been allowed to make those all-important changes and get that structure in place and start making those improvements, it hasn't been quite enough. You know, Eccles hasn't really had enough time to help elevate the team to the level where they want to be. So yes, they have some really good names, they have some really great players, but unfortunately we have kind of maybe overhyped them a little bit, and I'd like to see them do a lot better. I'd like to see a lot more out of them, and as I mentioned, you know, this is kind of their starting point. And I think that they can still do it. I think there is still a chance here to get back into it, but it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, of course. And then their opponents, Alliance, it's a different story. I mean, we expected so much of them coming into this, but as you mentioned, with the variety of changes they have made recently, unfortunately, it's just been brutal to watch. Their story is not one that is too kind in towards split number 2, especially when you compare it to split number 1. And that's what makes it so bad from them. It's really been kind of a story of being near flawless in split 1 all the way up until playoffs, being one of the sides that has really impressed us the entire time. And then coming to split 2, it's been really tough to watch. 0-4 they currently stand.
I mean, it is a little heartbreaking, right? So you start off, they kind of announced that they're releasing a lot of their roster. They're moving to a more Nordic-focused team. And then you see that some of their players have been yoinked up to bigger and better teams. And you start to realize, all right, well, changes needed to be made. And if you're making that many changes, why not focus on everyone being able to speak the same language, you know? Cut out some of those communication barriers, make it as streamlined as possible. The problem is, much like Heat not having enough time to, you know, sort out whatever synergistic issues they may have had, it's been the same for Alliance, and even more so because the roster that they put together, they lost 2 of their players. Now, Soren and Desmo, you can see they're kind of blurred out. They weren't here at the start of the season. Soren has come in as a bit of a sub, and Desmo is actually the coach. And one of the things I want to point out, you know, somebody was commenting the other day, like, oh, why are the casters getting so excited that Desmo's doing so well? You know, he's a good player. Yeah, sure, he's a good player. He's a coach. The time that players are putting into the server, the repetitions, the scrims, the constant mechanical improvement day after day, what is the coach doing in that time? The coach is doing the complete opposite. He is looking at VODs. He's anti-stratting. He's not working on that mechanical skill. He's a good player, obviously. He's proven that time and again. But his main focus in Valorant is not to be one of the best. And that's why we're impressed when he does well, because he doesn't put in as much time as the rest of the team. So when you see him going toe-to-toe with other players at this level, yeah, it's really impressive. So it's good to see that he's able to keep up, but unfortunately, it hasn't been enough. Alliance have really struggled to keep themselves in contention, and as we said, an 0-4 record. It's not looking good for the rest of the season.
No, not at all. We can start to delve into the specifics, though. We've got a head-to-head to show, and of course, Sam, you highlight these two. It's Remoy versus NILLE, and I think actually a pretty good sort of a head-to-head stat to bring up. NILLE, of course, one of those names that is, you know, impressed us for a long time, and for good reason, too.
Yeah, NILLE is somebody who's been on the radar since back with Tundra. He was one of the only Tundra players that came out of the blue, basically. He didn't have, like, previous team experience. He was really, you know, new to the scene. And obviously, being Danish and being so phenomenal, Alliance snapped him up without a second thought. Now, for the comparison, I very nearly went with Kenyon because they're the 2 top ACS players on their team, but Remoy isn't far behind, and I felt like this was a much better matchup because they both play the Sentinel role. And just looking at those stats, look at how much they bring to this team. It's not just about being a solid anchor point. It's not just about being someone who holds down a site, buys time for the rest of the team to get back, delays that spike plant if you're on the defensive side, whatever the case may be. It's also about how dangerous are you in your fragging potential. And let me tell you, they're pretty dangerous. With this being the lifetime stats, NILLE's, because of course all of his competition has been in Polaris, so it'll show exactly what his lifetime stat is over the last over this stage anyway. But for Remoy, his Polaris stats are actually slightly higher. It's at 222. So it's actually a little bit higher than NILLE's. And if you don't know what average combat score is, it takes into consideration how much you're spending, how much damage you're doing in a round, how many times you're dying, how many times you have to rebuy in, etc., etc. And again, it's very difficult to look at a duelist with a high ACS and be like, wow, that's impressive. But you also have to bear in mind, and this is again harkening back to Kenyon, most of the time you're like saving an op. So you're not going to die. And because you bought into the op and then you're saving the op, it reflects really well on your ACS. So it is a little bit of a skewed metric for a duelist. But for a Sentinel to have such a high ACS, knowing that they're consistently that player who has to be anchor, who is very likely going to be in the thick of the battle, I think it's really impressive. These two players, huge impact for their teams.
Yeah, exactly that. Now, something I wanted to move on to next, I want to sort of pick your brain, is where this veto goes. We've kind of had these conversations before. I think, of course, for Alliance, with the changes they have been making to the roster, it's a different sort of map pool that's their strengths coming through. And for HEET as well, they've got kind of two sides of the story. They've got kind of the original core of HEET, who had, of course, their veto, but then they can start to pick off the knowledge of Eccles, who, of course, with his previous Team Liquid experience, can start to bring in strats and sort of ways in which he wants to play from his old, Liquid days. And of course, I guess you could probably throw in 100 Thieves there, but that's a loose term. It's in quotation marks. It's all of a day's practice. But, it's one of those things that they've got, I'd say, in my opinion, HEET that slightly deeper pool.
Yeah, I think you also have to bear in mind that Alliance's map pool is as deep as this tournament is, because they've only been together. Okay, you could say something similar for HEET as well, but it does put them in a really tough spot. So you take a look at their statistics over the course of Polaris and Goose Egg. Every single one of their maps, because they haven't won any maps, never mind a series. They haven't managed to win a map. And okay, you look at the maps that they have played thus far. They've played a bit of Bind, they played a bit of Split, a bit of Ascent. Those are their three most played maps at like 2 each. But even then, it is so tough to determine where in the world they're going to take us, because we still have such a limited pool of information surrounding this team. And that, I think, can kind of work in their favor. But again, that'll work in their favor against a more established team, a team that you can kind of watch a lot of VODs on, look at their stats, understand their pick and ban process, and then you can maneuver that into your favor. But again, when you look at a team like HEET, who also, if we take a look at their stage 2, now I'm looking specifically at Polaris here, I mean, their best 2 maps have been Split and Icebox, 100% win rate on those 2. So maybe Alliance can start to think to themselves, well, okay, yeah, we've enjoyed Split, so maybe we try and float that one. But Icebox, they're doing really well on Icebox. We should probably avoid that one.
Agreed.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking. So probably Icebox is going to be out. I highly doubt we're going to see a Fracture or a Breeze for that matter. I think that those 2 maps might just be a little bit too strat heavy for these slightly newer teams. And I think that they're going to struggle a little bit to get good results on that. So I'm kind of expecting the Bind, Split, Ascent, the
Classics,
usual suspects. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at what the veto actually is. Enough speculation, we can look at what it actually is going to be coming into this to see how your predictions do coming through. And we're going to kickstart things on Ascent.
It's close.
Haven will be map number 2, and Split our decider if we get there. Of course, Ascent picked by HEET, Haven selected by Alliance, and of course the decider is that of Split. So, yeah, as you mentioned, the Bind Fracture bans come through immediately. Icebox is floated by Alliance to the end. They made their second ban, but they did, keep it in for a little bit of time there. There was a potential, but yeah, the Bind ban coming through from HEET, I think it's quite a smart one. It's actually predicted. Bind's one of Alliance's most played maps, and they don't really like to play that much, so just get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was hella close with my thought. Yeah, it's only really Haven that kind of threw me a little bit there. And again, I mean, that is a bit of a strat-heavy map as well, just because it has the 3 sites. But what most teams do is they kind of pretend that
There's 2.
B site just doesn't exist. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
or they use it as
exactly.
like an extended mid. B
Yeah.
is not B, it's just more mid.
Precisely.
So I think if you go in with that mindset, you can definitely make it work, even if you have a slightly smaller strap bank. I don't know. I think the veto could be fairly evenly matched between these two teams, but as we said, you know, HEET, while they haven't been looking phenomenal and mind-blowing, they've been on slightly better form than Alliance has been, so I could see a 2-1. I could see it happen. I think that Alliance have a lot to prove here today, but I still think that he'd come out on top of it.
Okay, we'll take a look at the agents as we go into map number 1. You're leaning potentially to 2-1, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to just say it's a 2-0 to HEET. I feel like, unfortunately for Alliance, I just don't think they have it in the locker with this current lineup. I think once they really kind of finalize things, it'll be okay. But Sam, give me the thoughts on the agents. We've got a fade coming out as well for in the hands of Waddle.
I'll be honest, I'm actually really glad that we're not seeing Neon. Because as much as I love Neon play, I think that she's in a position where, much like KO when he first came out, you know, teams were still kind of figuring out exactly how it fits in and how to best utilize it. And some teams have got it down really well, and some teams are still kind of struggling with that a little bit. So stick with something a bit more fundamental, I suppose. And speaking of fundamental, I mean, Alliance, you can't get more fundamental than their composition. I think maybe the Sage pick you could swap out, maybe another Initiator, for example, or something like a Sky for that extra little bit of information, or even, you know, bring out a Chamber, possibly, maybe not with the Killjoy, but you get what I'm saying, right? You wouldn't always want to bring out a Sage. But in terms of HEET's composition, I like it. I think they've got an advantage here.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different, of course, and let's see how they start things off on that attacking side. Deep towards mid, early doors, trying to get that pizza control. The question is, can they kneel it? Person person, look for the right clicks. Will he be able to find it? Shock dart coming through. Malfoy good for 2. He's got it behind. He's caused an issue. Looking for more. Eccles now in a really tough spot to try and salvage something here in a 2 versus 5. Waddle, spread it out by the turret. Over towards that B site. Now he's doubling back to support that of Eccles in towards mid. It was a manic start, it's safe to say. But it's left it now in a 2 versus 5 where they are in a brutal position. What do they do from here? Fake TP coming through. That might bait a little bit of attention back over towards A, which for the time being is completely open. Spike collected, doubling back. 50 seconds to work with, Sam.
Oh, this has worked out reasonably well for them, but they're going to need to be a little bit faster. HEET, you know, return rotation from Alliance could come in any moment. B-side is so open. It would have been a perfect opportunity, but they've overthought this. They're now pushing in towards mid, which is so heavily stacked. I mean, they could have just shot themselves in the foot here.
Yeah, they're trying to tooth and nail make their way through. Waddle good for one of his own. Malfoy will fall. He was low on HP, so he's dropped out of the count. Now 20 seconds or just over. And they're making their way back over towards the A site. Now there's a double stack and a crossfire set up. All down to one man. Waddle, so much to do. So little to work with. It's Alliance who kickstart things here with a pistol round on the board. 1-0 to them. And a bit of a dream start as well from what was already looking like potentially mid could be a weakness. A double from Malfoy in behind. And that's all the success they needed. They just played the numbers game.
Yeah, I mean, this was really great from Alliance. Obviously, when you're on a pistol round, you can afford to be a little bit more aggressive, kind of push out like crazy people, and that's essentially what they do, and they push in from, you know, different avenues as well, make it difficult for HEET, because HEET aren't going to split up too much on a pistol round. You can't. You have to take a slightly more deathball approach to it, so it kind of plays into Alliance's hands a little bit here. What I am finding very interesting is that we've got 2, count them, 2 hero rifles coming out on round 2. This could backfire for Alliance. They're going to have to make this work perfect.
Yeah, slightly risky here, especially if one has dropped across. Could be working in their favor. Monstrum's going to fall in early doors, though, and now in a 5 versus 4, I mean, with a very limited buy of here, can't really expect too much. Spike's going to be dropped as well from the hands of Cedar, and that more or less should close things out. Malfoy found one more. Yeah, really comfortable. Gets a little bit of a lucky shot through the smoke. These can go in all alone now. Headhunter in hand in a 1 versus 5. I think it's safe to say it's only gone one way. We'll find ourselves for 1. Look for 2. Won't be given the time of day. Malfoy 3-piece means that Alliance find a 2-0 start. And, you know, the dream start for them. And especially as well, they keep them rifles sticking across.
Yeah, and what's even better about this is the one player that does die, Cider, He's just got a pistol. So they haven't even lost an SMG in it either. They've kept everything that they invested into. This was an important round for Alliance to win in terms of long-term economy. Of course, this is going to be a full bonus for them. Obviously, now Cider buying into a Vandal as well. So, obviously, it didn't save, but he had a Ghost. So, like, you weren't going to save that anyway.
Exactly.
Now, of course, coming in against a full rifle squad, but they know that they have 3 rifles of their own. This could go either way.
Already, just a bit of a boost up pick. You're looking for something. Not going to find it as we speak. He's just looking for that early engagement in towards B main. But for the time, he won't be given a wall in his face as well. That more or less denies any of that presence for Heat in towards these early engagement here. So you see no play on the other side, waiting an opportunity, wall will be destroyed, and now we can start to test those waters. Cedar actually going to go a little bit aggressive here. Could work in his favor. Needs to be careful not to overextend, however, as that will lead a world of pain. There it is, it's a 1-for-1 trade. Cedar, good for the first, but Kingoon at least brings numbers back level. Already now looking like they're going to test those waters over towards B, and a rotation is being called through mid. Malfoy might get some timing, and he will. Tapping away, a little bit of a labor spray. I'm going to make the smart decision just to fall back, but he's been tapped down. A really poor TP coming through, and Remoy going to bring the numbers back in favor of Heat. They've got a lead now.
Oh, that was such good positioning as well. They don't send everyone across. They're waiting to try and catch someone on the cross. And, okay, as you said, a little bit labored, but they do make it happen. And now they're at a numbers advantage.
30 seconds left.
So they say. NILLE, one of his own. Waddle will fall. Spike dropped as well. Can go and take a significant damage in a 3 versus 3. This is already becoming a little bit of an uncomfortable situation with less than 20 seconds to work with. As now they make the commit. NILLE, one more. Looking for the third. Will he find it? Answers no. Monstrum good for 2, but only as Kingoon with 33 points HP trying to avoid shock darts left, right, and center. I don't think he has the time, as you mentioned. He might just be able to get it down, and he will. Just about going to get that spike down with mere seconds to spare. How does he play this in a 1 versus 1? Desmo, Spectre at range, and the flawless start continues for Alliance.
Oh, wow, what a good round from Alliance, all things considered. I mean, Heat, so as I said, you know, great positioning at the start of the round, trying to catch someone in on a rotation, but Alliance are able to bounce back really well, and I spoke about how important that anchor player is going to be. NILLE holding down Tree, and you see all of that util as you try and make your way in towards Tree, and he uses that perfectly, buys some space, isolates 1v1s, and eventually he does get traded out, but he's able to create so much space and buy so much time for his team.
Agreed.
Exactly what he needed to do. And now we've got the operator back in play, and of course he's back down onto some sheriffs and an SMG. It's not ideal.
No, not even slightly. It's another sort of less than opportune buy for them as they're left in a really brutal situation. A full buy from them. Failure to convert has left them back into the ego and back to just pistols to try and find something. That one Spectre and Andrew Remoy got a lot of precedence. Not about starting the NILLE. We'll drop Monstrum. Beautiful start as well. Numbers back in their favor as it's been time and time again. However, Desmo gonna fall through the wall. The spam working brilliantly, looking for one of his own. Tour de Force online as well. This could potentially be the difference maker. As Kingoon's trying to find somewhat of an entry, but won't be given it just yet.
Now, it is good that he holds these angles, tries to see if somebody will peek out, but Alliance playing this smart. And look at this rotation coming in. There you go. Through the spawn here. They're going to buy time, get themselves into position. 3 different crossfires to play from, and Heat are just kind of sitting ducks.
This actually could work really nicely for them. It's all about timing, though. They're still trying to make their way towards B main, but Cedar, this lurk could be everything. All he has to do is wait. And even just holding this angle, he knows they're not rotating away. So this operator at range is all the more prevalent because they know they can commit it. Cedar's still going for it. And actually, this could be the difference maker. Gonna drop one of them behind. Slow orb as well. Denies that presence, swinging back into it. But this time, Remoy comes on top. That Spectre put to good use in a 2 versus 3. But 20 seconds to work with. And another scenario where Heat, they've left the time too late. The foot race over towards A, but will they be able to get there?
Oh, again, they've kind of overthought things a little bit. Yeah, I think the pressure of how important this game is to them might just be getting to them a little bit. Yeah, now Remoy is able to pick up a Vandal for himself. See if he can make that sing. Oh, but they just didn't have enough time. Nope. That's so sad. They just get towards the sites. And okay, an exit frag on for Alliance as well, so he'd go through with, well, I mean, they didn't have much anyway, but now they have even less as the sheriffs get taken away, and the potential to save a Vandal is also cut short. Alliance looking really good here. I'm impressed, but we have to bear in mind, of course, I like to call round 5 the momentum shifting round.
Yeah,
Heat
for sure.
are back in again with full rifles here across the board for themselves. A lot of firepower. They did use the Tour de Force, as you said, but they're very close to a few more ultimates, which could give them a good opportunity into this one.
I think Heat's biggest kind of crux has been them trying to go for executes with 20 seconds left on the clock. They're leaving things too late. They can't have time to clear the site, and on top of that, find anything on the back of it. Malfoy, brilliant double opener. Remoy will trade, but the numbers stay in their favor. Zoran, one of his own as well as Eccles will fall. This is stunning work here by Alliance. It's already a 2 versus 4. Flash will come through on towards the site, but what do they do in this scenario? There's still such a mammoth task ahead of them. But potentially now they've got the site to work with.
Seems like Kremlin knew something we didn't. This is looking like it could be a 5-0, but Waddle doing his utmost to even things out a little bit. Has spotted out NILLE. Needs to be careful now because there's a potential dual swing. Oh, he just dodges it.
Just a bar, right? I mean, now swinging back over towards Garden. Sounds like a bit of face here. As you see, they're going to go for the early P. Fall off the ledge. It's a double from Cedar. Alliance 5-0 stars. Another full buy for Heat, which has failed to convert into, well, anything. They pick up 1 kill and a spike plant. That's it.
I think what's extra stressful for Heat in this moment is that they're not even keeping it expensive. They get maybe they get 1, maybe 2 kills per round. And it's just not enough. It's not enough to keep Alliance stressed out. It's not enough to keep them on their toes. Alliance are slowly building up a huge slush fund for themselves. So much cash in bank. Plus, they've got 2, ultimates online for themselves here. They have so much to work with. And Heat were not able to get into any more ults, right? I mean, we said they were really close to some ults. They weren't able to convert anything. Now, again, close to some ults, but, not quite at a position where they can convert. And it looks like they might even be forcing into that round. So far, we've already seen 2 rifles come out. And of course, it is going to be a timeout. Yeah, perfect time to do so because, well, things are looking seriously dire for this Heat squad. I'm really impressed in Alliance's display today.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a completely different performance by Alliance here so far. I mean, they've looked conclusive, decisive, and actually a really solid sort of team synergy going on here, where for Heat, at times, it's really been lackluster. They look like a shadow of their former selves, and this has kind of come back to the same thing about how we expect so much of Heat, and then we never find it. And once again, we're looking kind of in that exact same kind of position where for Heat, they're 5-0 down, and a lot of it has been their own errors more than kind of anything else. Yes, Alliance have been playing very well themselves, but executing onto a site with under 20 seconds to work with and not having time to get the spike down, that's only one person's fault. And for Heat, that's been a real consistent issue. But as you mentioned, full buy coming through into round number 6. Operator good for the first. Zoran, that's a beaut. NILLE one of his own as well. Everything already playing into their hands in round number 6, and potentially more could come from it. Swinging through, looking to try and find another. This time Malfoy with 4 to the hands of Remoy, but still the numbers heavily in favor of Alliance. It's a 2 versus 4 situation, a minute 10 to work with, and I think it's safe to say that Alliance, all they have to do is play for the trade game, looking for it. Cedar 1, looking to make it 2, and he will do it with ease. A 3k to his name as Alliance keep the train going. 6-0.
I'm really, really impressed here. I mean, Heat look lost, right? Alliance play this really aggressive push out, and maybe they weren't expecting a force to come in. Maybe they were expecting a low buy, for example, but they go for a really aggressive play, and it could have ended badly. I mean, there you go. That one just not quite connecting means that you're able to survive, get that opening kill, get the hell out of dodge because you can dash away. And people thought that the dash change was a nerf. May I present Soren Exhibit A, perfectly executed.
No, agreed. I mean, that is a really, really nice kind of opening. And it just gives them that man advantage, which is just more than enough for them to work with then. Now, unfortunately for Heat, it's back to square one. Back to the pistols, back to not much of a buy to try and find at least a bit of comfort, security, and make this slightly less embarrassing, but it's not going to be the easiest of tasks. Wards come through from the hands of Seed, and all he has to do is just deny that presence. Bossback will at least give them a bit of an opening to work with, but even still, for Heat, in a 5 versus 5 situation with a minute to work with, they've got realistically no firepower here.
This This is going to be tough no matter what. And I was almost expecting them to take a slightly more explosive stance in this round. I mean, all you have is pistols, right? And very often you'll see teams take kind of a death ball stance, rush in onto site with sheriffs and, you know, tap some heads, and it works out quite nicely. But again, they're defaulting back into this incredibly slow style of play. Still about 35 seconds left on the clock. Yes, there's still a little bit of time, but something has to give, and it has to be soon.
Yeah, now Echo's still just kind of showing face over towards that A side. Nothing really being found as of yet. Over to that B side, may I say. Now you're going to double back to support them in what looks like it's going to be the A short hit. They're looking like they want to go aggressive. Monstrum, nice opener. Desmo will fall with a paranoia comes through. At least a nice bit of that tempo. Echo's good for one of his own. Zoran will trade with the operator. Showstopper out for display as well. Will it find anything is the question. Bit of time to work with it. Now needs to let it loose as it's going to go off. Off it will. Malfoy nowhere to be seen. Blaze-Storm popped. Up drop to come through. Looking for one. Very unfortunate to hit the mark. Now Operator will come through. Jumping through the Cloudburst. It's very risky to say the least. As what do they do from this situation? Spike down in a 1 versus 3. This could be the first time we see Heat get off the board. And it's with the pistols of all buys. As Malfoy's got a mammoth task ahead of him. Looking for the first. Won't be able to find it. Kinguin. 50 round for Heat to finally find their first Sam. It is about time.
Honestly, I was literally about to say that. It's about time. And to make it happen on a pistol round, no less. I was saying, you know, very often you'll take like a death ball approach and you'll hit some heads with the sheriffs. And that's what they do. They just do it minus the death ball, minus the crazy rush. They lean into their slower play style. They split up Alliance's forces. They take a nice mid-control with Eccles pushing over towards the B site and is able to kind of split up the say reinforcements, the forces, so to speak.
Yes, yeah.
But look at Alliance's buy. They have 2 operators now. I mean, they mean serious business. They convert 1 round and immediately they go, no, this is not good enough. We have to, you know, we have to, what's the word? We have to clear our name, so to speak. Oh my god.
Exactly that. Monstrum as well. Lovely opener. Zoran slightly tunnel vision. Still a double orb setup though for Alliance. They need to be careful. However, they're now in the numbers disadvantage. They're flooding over towards this B side. We've seen this B main control come through before. Malfoy needs to sport things out, but NILLE will fall as well. Desmo in towards Boathouse. Needs to go huge, but unable to even find one. This is once again looking like a round in favor of Heat. Unless Cedar can do something monstrous. And potentially, they might even be tempted to save here.
And there we go. The power of the tech pause.
Of course.
Take a moment, take a breather, figure it out. What is Alliance doing that we cannot deal with? They figured it out. They know exactly what to change and what to, you know, take control of. They move in towards the B site really, really nicely. Okay, it helps that Soren doesn't have anyone watching his back. He pushes out very aggressive out of B main, and he's looking the wrong direction. He doesn't expect someone to be holding that close right angle. And so as soon as he pushes through with no one watching the counter angle, he's scoped in. He's not going to see that player. And that first pickoff coming through, taking that first operator off the board, it's massive. Oh man,
no, it is.
Everybody huddled up in the cubby there, just trying to make sure they can survive the bomb exploding. Another solid round here from Heat, off the back of that aggression from Alliance, and I think that's probably what they noted in that attack pause. They're playing really aggressively. We just need to allow them to push out, and then we take advantage of that, instead of constantly trying to push into them. Works out really well. They finally have that second point in on the board, but as I mentioned, not keeping it expensive. Alliance, despite losing 2 rounds in a row, still able to buy in, but they're getting very close to breaking point. They only have 1 operator because, of course, they're not able to afford another one, but they do have a lockdown available, and hopefully that'll help them continue the streak that they had before.
So far, so good for Heat in terms of these 2 rounds, but it needs to be more. I mean, already Alliance just 1 away from guaranteeing a lead heading into the next. This is not exactly where they want to be. Remoy, nice opener. Cedar overextends, pays the price. Zoran will follow suit as well. We've seen him a couple of times be caught off guard, but a double from Malfoy. This potentially turns the tide back to a 3 versus 3. And hang on a second, we've now got a different story on the cards, as everything seems to be back to a neutral standing, but what do they want to do from this sort of position?
Oh, that paranoia was tasty. And very often, oh, there we go. That's a very big ultimate coming through here. Doesn't give them the space as they already lose Eccles.
Yeah, that's not great. Now the numbers back in favor of the defender side. This is a really less than opportune position for them to be, and they need to be careful. Tunnel Vision did as well. Could work his favor. Good for one. Kingo and Hunter's Fury online as well. What can it find? Denying. I think finds 1 kill. This potentially could be good in terms of the retake. It's a 1 versus 2. Numbers in their favor. And hang on a second. We're on for a different story. As Kingo has the potential to try and deny 1 here, but it needs to be brilliant. He needs to find this and then fall away. Slightly aggressive. Spotting him out. Swinging in. Desmo. 3k to his name. Alliance keep the lead much in their favor. It's a 7-2 scoreline, 5-round lead, and they guarantee a lead heading into our second half. Sam, I'm getting worried now.
Alliance do very well to pull back. So we have the Fade ultimate coming through. It pushes them back a little bit because, of course, it gives, you know, Heat all the information as to where they are. If you've been hit by that, you're marked. And, of course, you're deafened. So there's so much that goes into that. So they pull back. They play slightly more passively. They wait for that to, you know, erode. And then they're able to reaggress in. And it works out so well for them. And, of course, Malfoy, with that incredibly tasty paranoia over in Tree that's able to get the 2 pickups there, give them the numbers advantage already. I mean, this was a great round from Alliance, a great bounce back for them. And it was much needed for their economy because they're able to come back into it. Now, King Yun gonna save a little bit of cash there. Pop the tour de force. We saw what he was capable of with the operator in the previous round. We'll see if he can replicate that here and maybe get Heat another round win for themselves.
Yeah, and need something special with tour de force. Missed shot for the first second I'm asking, no good. Not too shabby at all. Now, what the question is, what more can they find? Looking for it. Swinging in on the pain canisters. Monstrum's going to fall to the... I mean, Malfoy's going to fall, may I say, to the hands of Monstrum. This is already looking significantly better. When Heat go aggressive and step up the tempo, they're much more fearsome than when they slow that clock down. Now, spike down. Post plan set up, and a 3 versus 5 retake is not looking too great as of just yet. Desmo being tagged down. He will fall. Cedar in for the trade at the very least. But still, it's a 2 versus 4 situation. And Lions, they might even be tempted to save. And now, definitely, NILLE, good for 1. 3 more to find, swinging in close. Personal, gonna drop Monstrum. There's definitely a backbone to this as Waddle. He's low on HP. And a lockdown to come through. Actually, that could now start to fare something different. NILLE on for the quad. Can he find it? He's just waiting for the lockdown to work in his favor. He's waiting for the overextension, and he'll find it, NILLE. That is stunning. What a round from him. Has he got time? I think he just about does. It's going to be very close, but I more or less think he might just have it. And he does. Quad clutch from NILLE. 1 versus 4. The lockdown is perfectly executed. The line's up to 8. That is sumptuous.
What an absolute monster. Well done, NILLE. I mean, he was someone that we had noted at the start of the broadcast because he is such an exceptional player. Yoinked from Tundra at the end of the last season. And, well, you know what? He is making it obvious why that has happened. Such a good clutch from him, yeah. And like you said, I mean, that lockdown, he knows they've got nothing to deal with it. There's no utility, right? They have to swing out and actually destroy it if they want to get rid of it. So he just waits. He waits patiently because the last player there, Waddle, has to either go up into heaven and circumnavigate and, you know, then you give over a lot of time, or you have to cross over mid to avoid the lockdown. Now, Waddle's kind of banking on NILLE having moved away and being able to shoot out that lockdown, or possibly thinking, well, maybe he's still there and I'll just win out the trade. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So solid round there. That gets Alliance to 8-2. Heat, they have to win these next 2 rounds. There's only 2 rounds left in this half. And Alliance are taking a timeout. They're at 8-2. And I love this because I think that there is so much that goes through your mind, okay? They're 0-4 in the standings. They cannot afford to get ahead of themselves. They cannot afford to get overly cocky, overly excited. They can't let that adrenaline start to cloud their judgment. So you take a breath and you make sure that you finish this half as strong as possible. They're going for the 10-2. Heat still able to buy into this, but no ultimates to speak of because all of those rounds have been so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, now flooding over towards his B side, trying to go aggressive. Spam coming through from Monstrum, good for 1. Down to half HP, but remaining alive is all that matters. Bluebody's coming towards side, Cedar into his backside as well. A lot that he has to be able to find here with just a Spectre, but there's the first, not too shabby. Staying alive is a priority, looking for 1 more, but will be tagged through the wall. Remoy in for the trade now. Sight in favor of Heat. Retake, looking to try and find some sort of stable way in, but even that's easier said than done, as already things looking very, very good for Heat to potentially find a third, unless this flank can find something. Malfoy sneak his way forward. He might not even be heard yet. Zoran just staying alive until his backside. Echo's gonna force on his Remoy. Hang on a second. We've now swapped hands. Zoran still making his way out towards shore, still causing an issue there. Double cloudburst to come through. Paranoia will come out as well as he jumps back on towards side. Does he expect it close? 1-on-1. Looking for 2. Labour's spray gets punished. It's all down to 1 man. Kinguin, can he stay alive? Can he keep the dream going? And I think he may not have done enough, unfortunately. NILLE, I think, once again, just enough time with a slither of HP to work with. It's going to be that 9th round on the board for Alliance. What a retake that is, with the numbers not in their favor.
Last round.
Oh, well, Waddle, I think that, again, you know, we talk about the panic, the adrenaline, right? And the spray transfer, he's kind of just holding M1 and hoping that it's going to connect in a way that, oh, look at that. Just unfortunately not. If he connects that shot onto NILLE, if he manages to get that kill, he'd win that round. And it's something so small as spray control. Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking if he'd just been able to do that. But there you go, 9-2. Alliance looking to make it that 10. Heat, of course, have to force into this. Still no ultimates to speak of, except for the Fade. Waddle's actually been doing really well at making sure that he's got that ultimate online quite often. But those ults haven't been super impactful or effective. It's going to have to come up big here if they want to get that 9-3.
That, swinging forward, good for 1, looking for 2, and we'll find it. Zoran, that's brilliant, dashing away, stunning stuff. What more can they find? NILLE dropping Muncham, leaves Eccles and Kinguin in a 2 versus 5. Oh, Sam, my heart goes out to HEET because it's looking like they're going to finish the half with only 2 rounds on the board, and map number 1 might be lightning quick in favor of Alliance because this is really dicey. Blaze to come out as well. Eccles trying to find something of his own. At the very least, a bit of utility allows him to fall back over towards mid. Will pick himself up a Vandal as he's slowly moving his way through towards that market, that pizza, trying to potentially double back on towards that B site, but even that's going to be a bit of a dicey affair. Malfoy's holding for the rotation. He's waiting for a slight overextension. At this sort of range, a bit of a double stack actually could work quite nicely for HEET to wrap back round. But no, Malfoy good for 1. These all downs can go, and he has to do something special. He's unable to do so. 10-2 at the half. It's a flawless round for Alliance. And what a performance this has been, Sam. I mean, this is a complete difference for them from not only the season, but their last game as well, where they lost 2-0 to H2O.
So I'm just checking there's someone in chat who's doing a bit of prediction. Shout out Carter. And he says it's going to be a 10-2 half, so well done there. He says HEET win the pistol, and then Alliance close it out. So here you go. His prediction's been put on blast. And you know what? I could kind of get behind that. You know, HEET on the defensive side. They could probably take this pistol. Let's see if it does actually come to fruition. If it doesn't, 300 and something people are going to know that you failed. So welcome to our world, because we fail all the time and it's heartbreaking. What's also heartbreaking is, oh man, HEET. This was such an important game for them. I mean, if they lose this one, they're also basically out of contention for a playoff spot. And Alliance, I mean, whether they win it or not, they're out. But I think that it's about making a statement. Because they've had such a rough season, they want to show what they're capable of. And of course, as you continue to play together, you get better. So we want to see them competing more in the future, and it'll be great to see if they can actually close this one out.
And more importantly as well, if Alliance win this series, then there's 3 teams at the bottom there that are 1-4. That makes that relegation battle even spicier, as we thought it was just that H2O one. Either way, Tap's coming through. Zoran taking the brunt of the damage as the paint cans come through. Won't really cause too much of an issue still. Now Desmo looking to close the door, which it will be done. Zoran only 44 points of HP, needs to be slightly careful. Wall to come through though. He's in the charge. Paranoia comes online as well, as they want to still just try and flood their way in towards Boathouse. Tagged, marked, they know exactly where he is. A recon to come through is not exactly the easiest. There's 2 players here, right click coming through. Damage dealt. Desmo and Cedar take the site, take the numbers in their favor. And unfortunately, that prediction not looking too fruitful right now. It is a 2 versus 4 retake. Spike down, post-spawn sets up, and things looking very pretty if you're an Alliance flan. As the flash comes through, Remoy leading the charge, trying to close out a bit of the space, and NILLE just playing nice and passive in towards main. He could be a real difference maker himself. Trying to invite that pressure in NILLE. Couple of taps. Gives away the ruse, gives away the position, coming in close. A personal headhunter of Kinguin, good for 1. Looking for 1 more, but he's all alone now to 1 versus 3. Needs to fight something! Kinguin, what is that? That's on for 3. Gonna tap the spike, and he might even half defuse it as well. He knows he's against 1. He was in towards B main. They say pros don't fake. Kinguin, surely not! What a pistol, Kinguin! 1 versus 4, and he clutches things out. What a round! I bow down to you, sir, because that is impressive.
That double tap. Put it in the highlight reel. Oh my god, my brain melted. I mean, Alliance played that really well. They double swing. They're expecting to be able to win that, and you know, but they line up so perfectly for the double tap. Oh man, Kingyun. I didn't want to highlight him at the start of the broadcast, and he normally plays that duelist role, but now he's playing the Sentinel, so I suppose I could have. And he's just performing so well, but is it going to be enough? They win the pistol, they're able to buy into SMGs here. Now they're going to have to contain with Malfoy on a Marshall, and there's quite a bit of firepower into that, especially considering that, well, there's not a lot for Heat to work with in this round.
Oh, what a round. And fair play, you know, the guy who predicted it. So far, so right. Let's see how things fare, though. Until round number 14, it's that somewhat force coming through, as mentioned, with the Marshall. Hang on a second, though. Remoy got problems of his own, apart from that he kills himself. You do hate to see it. You really do. Eccles, though, coming in to drop out Desmo, bring the numbers back in their favour and double it down. In fact, monitoring close and personal, respect of this range and the paranoia to come through only should go one way. It's just down to the Marshall, no scope. Hang on a second. Hello, Malfoy. But it's Eccles with a 4-kill round from him. Divine Heat, they're 4th on the board.
Oh man, what a round. Again, just
what a game, Sam.
Seriously, keeping us on our toes, keeping the pressure on, keeping the hearts racing. I mean, I spoke about the teams having adrenaline. Man, it is pumping for me right now just watching this. And okay, so Heat have now won 2 rounds in a row, but this is where things start to get tight. Alliance already on double digits, and of course, they're going to be able to buy up very well into this round. It's only going to be Malfoy who's on half armor, which I believe he just kind of kept through from the previous round. So, not a lot to work with into this one for Heat. It is their bonus, but they lost 2 players. So 2 of their players are on pistols. It's not ideal. They're going to have to come up really huge here if they want to keep that momentum going.
That is the question. What do we see now on the last opener? Malfoy going to fall. A brilliant double swing in towards mid. Already gives Heat that lovely advantage. Despite Alliance having a bit of firepower, they're down to only 4. Not exactly the dream starts in towards round number 15. Kinguin's tucked himself in towards that close corner on short, and all he has to do is just hold weight. Be that sort of anchor in that transitional place. It's a brilliant position to hold, and he wasn't spotted either, so there's no information on him. See, though, at the very least, he snuck his way in towards the back line. He's managed to make his way all the way through towards Market without really even being spotted, tested, or even considered. Soren, nice.
Evening out the numbers a little bit here. That's gonna keep things stressful. But Heat still seems to be in control for the time being. Spike hasn't gone down yet.
We tend to dust.
Uh-oh. Remotion of 4, though, and now these 2 in towards Boathouse. They've got a tough door. They're ahead of them. NILLE, finding the trade. Kinguin as well, causing issues. I've got a second. Eccles hasn't been spotted. They're trying to get that spike down. They haven't even considered a second in there. Tapping the spike once again. Just over 15 seconds to work with. In comes the swing Kinguin. We'll pay the price, but Eccles will close things out. Heat bring the numbers up to 5 for them on their defender side. The deficit down to only 5, and it's starting to put a bit of a story here, Sam.
Oh man, Heat. Okay, this resurgence. You know what? Maybe Heat just aren't an attacking team. You know, attacking side's a bit rough, and Alliance had the defensive side on lock, but now Heat seem to have that same control. I mean, we talk about maps being defend-decided. A lot of the maps kind of just tend to be that way. Take a look at Alliance here, forcing into 2 Marshals. Gonna try and make something happen with this one. Of course, NILLE, one of the powerhouses of this team. He almost clutched out that last round, and it wouldn't be the first clutch we've seen from him. But got a tall task ahead of him. Kingyun again, not buying in this round, instead opting for that tour de force. Maybe he can, you know, bonus up a little bit later. Oh, no, the paint shell kill. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Oh, Zoran falling already, especially with the very lackluster buy for Alliance. That's not exactly the start they were looking for. Paint canister finding 1. Kind of spammed in the wall. Echoed actually gets tagged. That's not the fortune he was looking for. He's down to half, but still, all good. Heat have the numbers in their favor, especially the firepower too. All they have to do is play for the trades here with 55 seconds to work with. Trying to deny a bit of that presence. Aldrin won't want to spot out too much either. Suppression coming through. NILLE still trying to make his way forward with this Marshall in hand, still trying to find something. So he's just going towards that back lines though. Echoes is sort of inviting the pressure, needs to be careful, tapping away. Now of course we'll play a little bit more passive. Smoke to come through just to deny that presence, and the wrap back onto the sights. Missed shot from Malfoy. Monstrum will punish. Paint cans to come through as well, and Desmo could be in for a little bit of trouble. We'll avoid the brunt of the damage, but Waddle going to find one more. Cedar falls, everything falling into their hands. The shot with the Marshall, and he's all alone. He's trying to bait him out, showing the barrel. Pays the price for it though. Kinguin, his tour de force off the line, but it's the only kill of the round. A consolation as HEET finds 6.
This has been impressive. Okay, bearing in mind, we didn't really expect much to come out of that round for Alliance. They didn't have a ton. We even thought, okay, maybe the Marshals can sing a little bit there, and NILLE does manage to get one for his troubles. But again, I mean, very similar to what we saw in the previous half. Alliance just not keeping it expensive for HEET. So despite the fact, I say despite the fact, I mean, HEET have been on a tear this half. They haven't dropped around yet. And if Alliance are able to take a round off, you know, they're able to buy into full rifles this time around, HEET are still going to be okay into the next round. And Kinguin, of course, buying into that operator. It's what he plays so well. Not obviously normally playing that jet. So, of course, he's going to be good with a sniper. So got that online for himself after using the tour de force in the previous round, and boy did he make that one sing. Alliance have a tough task ahead of them as they start a very strong 5-stack over towards A. This could be awesome, but it could also backfire.
Baron, Baron come through as well. Might give him an entry, but no. It's a Zoran and Malfoy. Marscott's locked down on board as well. Water has to do something at least special here. Information spotted. Missed shots though. Zoran makes it a second. This is now looking very good for them to just flood towards the A side. It's more or less uncontested. Swamp Grenade coming in. Monstrum will follow suit. That's Zoran's third. And Kinguin all alone. Recon dart in his face as well. That's going to prompt the save. Yes, he's got economy to work with in a 1 versus 5. Sam, there's not much point.
So this is a good round from Alliance because, well, they win it. And it is an interesting adaptation as well, making some changes to, you know, ensure that they're able to win out the round for themselves, keep things different, try to keep HEET on their toes. They do also do this play off the back of having a lockdown available. And then again, they don't play super aggressively. Sometimes, you know, a team will drop a lockdown and then they'll immediately run in onto site before there's really been time for anything to happen. But instead, they play slightly more passive. They allow, you know, Waddle to push out into them. They are able to get that kill as well, and slowly the HEET tumbles start to fall. So this is a really good round for them. But the question is, how do they replicate this? Because obviously this was off the back of having that lockdown available and playing a 5-stack death ball over towards the A site off the back of the lockdown. Now they're not going to have that available. They do have Bladestorm available, but it's highly unlikely they pop it in this round because they have full rifles. They're going to want to have that for a more important round where they're possibly pushed back down onto pistols. That's the only ultimate they have available. So how they play this round is really going to be telling of whether or not they're going to be able to close out the map. And they're not too far from doing that. They only need 2 more rounds.
Precisely that. I mean, it's only 2 away. And now we kind of get to the question of, well, asking the question, you know, too little, too late, right? Because for HEET, at a 10-2 half, it requires a real good resurgence from them. And, I mean, unfortunately, while it's been great so far, Alliance has needed just a couple of strokes of luck, honestly, just to close this one out. And so far, with the first on the board already, this could start to spell a good sign. Swinging forward, looking for one. Monstrum, though. Brilliant for the first. Showstopper online. Not going to find his target, though. Back to a 4 versus 4. Swinging in. Paranoia's good from Eccles. He's good for the first. We're going to make it a second as well. Swinging in. Just toying with the idea of the Desmo to drop him on the corner and bring it back to that 3 versus 3. Spikes are probably go down momentarily. Kinguin might find a bit of timing in his favor. Operator in hand. Stormgren will keep him at bay. Headhunter just about finding his target, but still giving away the ruse. Spike down, post plant set up. And 2, 3 stacked in towards heaven. What do they do from this position? They can't even make their way out. Flashes to come out on the hands of Remoy, but even still, dropping down is going to be treacherous. And NILLE, oh so easy. It's a free kill for him. Looking for one more. Will he find it? Kinguin in a range though. Not too shabby himself. Recon dart online. Swinging through. Could be good enough. Catching Util in hand. Kinguin's all alone in a 1 versus 2. Has to clear the on the heaven player and does. Kinguin's been in the situation before. Last time he clutched things out, but the Hunter's Fury online just denying. Despite the fuse coming through, and it could be good enough. Hang on, Sam, no way. Not again, surely not. Kinguin, no way. He's done it again. That's brilliant.
Okay, so it does look a little bit stressful there. And I think that the flick shot that he's able to get is so important because it puts him in a 1v1. And that is the determining factor. Because yes, the Hunter's Fury does come out, but he's at full HP. So exactly. He can soak at least one, and he's able to get onto the spike quickly enough. He's able to pull out that Hunter's Fury quickly enough that even if he dodges 2 of the hits, he can soak the 3rd, still survive, and get the defuse. In fact, I think it might even have been smarter for Desmo to maybe wait a second or 2 with that Hunter's Fury. And I know it's a high stress situation, and that might not even have worked. You know, that might have even Kinguin might still have been able to kind of time that perfectly for himself and still get that defuse. So it's a really tough position for Desmo to be in, but what a performance from Kinguin. I mean, that looked like a round that Heat, again, were going to just narrowly have slip out of their hands. But I said this, you know, the previous round, Alliance win off the back of a lockdown. They win off the back of some really good play based off of that. But they have to defer back to their usual play style when they don't have the lockdown available. And Heat have had a pretty good read into that for the duration of this second half. They're back into this, and Alliance struggling to find a footing here. They've only managed to win 1 round in the second half, and while they are very, very close to closing it out, 1 more point and they're on match point. Heat don't look like they're ready to give an inch.
That's exactly that. Down to only a 4-round deficit. This story's not done. I think we were, well, I definitely personally was quite quick to think that, you know, Alliance, they might be able to just close this out. A 10-2 it's a very, very steep deficit to climb, but so far, so good. Now, with only 4 rounds in it, and with Alliance's economy consistently being really kind of unstable, it really gives a wealth of opportunities over towards the Aldrin's come through. Kinguin just trying to stay alive for the time being, and will be able to do so. Maybe not. It's going to make the smart decision just to fall away as he does so. They now know they've got to kind of clear on towards the site itself. Cloudburst to come through. Needs to be careful. In comes the Recon 2. Nade will keep them at bay. Soren all alone. Easy picked out of the sky. Remoy, though, traded through the smoke. This is a different story. It's a 4 versus 4, but they've got control of the site. And the res coming online as well. Hang on a second. Now on a 5 versus 4. Spike to go down momentarily in the hands of Desmo. And Malfoy going aggressive. He could get some timing here. Kinguin tunnel vision. And he'll fall. 5 versus 3. And Heat backs against the wall. Malfoy just keeps the train ticking. And he makes it another kill in his favor. It's a 3-piece for Malfoy. Alliance find 12. And they find map point.
Look at where he died across the map. Okay, you can't see it now, but they almost died in a straight line from the top of this A corridor here in heaven all the way down to like A main. And it's actually quite funny. There's one kind of outlier towards the left there, but it does show how relatively split up they were. And they were attempting to kind of create a bit of a pincer maneuver circle in, but unfortunately they slowly get mowed down. And this was a really strong aggressive round from Alliance. We hadn't seen a lot of those hard and fast rounds from them, and it works out really well. And now they're on match point. And Heat's economy is not looking great. Waddle and Remoy down onto SMGs. It's not the position they want to be in. They used a lot of ultimates. Nope. Now, they do still have the Fade ult available, and there's a lot that you can do with that, along with the KO as well. The Alliance, they're looking strong here, and they know 1 more point, and they will win their first map of the season.
Yeah, the first time we've seen Alliance pick up a map in Split 2. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk it? Look where we are now. Not a bad opener, though, for Kinguin. Malfoy's going to fall. He made a difference in towards round number 19. This time, he's off the board more or less immediately. NILLE, over towards B main. Creating a bit of space individually, and we need something of an individual showing from him if they want to salvage this round now with a man disadvantage. And 45 seconds left to work with a much slower tempo here from Alliance. No fast-paced, aggressive stance coming through. Blazestorm popped through too as they're flooding in towards market, breaking down the door as well. And now they're flooding on towards his site. Paranoia to come through, trying to find something. In comes the fear as well. Everything looking pretty good for Alliance, and maybe find an entry in. What can he find? Good for the first. Soren will jump on him. What more can he deliver though? Spotted towards backside swing and in. And all very good. Desmo needs to find more. Will he be able to? No, Cedar's going to fall. And Desmo's left in a 1 versus 3. Rightly coming out, but it's Waddle for a 3-piece.
Oh, the that was so sad because the slow orb coming in onto Waddle is actually huge, and it could have been the perfect pivot point, but there's still a lot of noise being made on the other side towards the entrance of the site, so you can't necessarily commit 2 players into a perfect swing onto a slowed player, so you have to split up your resources a little bit. Yeah, and Waddle, he's able to isolate these 1 versus 1. Cider gets a little bit too... jumps the gun a bit there, and Waddle, I mean, he's in the middle of a reload. Like, that would have been the perfect moment to push him, but somehow he's able to pull back and reset, pull out that classic, and there you go, Heat just mow it down. Beautiful, beautiful stuff here. And they keep their dream alive for 1 more round, but the economy is still messy. A Guardian and an SMG versus Alliance's full buy. They're still in a rough spot. They still have 1 ultimate online here, and I think that does give them a huge favor.
Soren needed to find something there. The fact that he doesn't potentially could be the difference maker. Remoy, at the very least, giving them some room to work with. Now, the wall came up. Facida doesn't want to use that height advantage to swing back in towards Guardian. Actually going to double back in towards the short. 3 players stacked in towards Guardian to try and get this control. What can they find is the question. Spike planted, post plant somewhat set up, but it's not the most stable. Already looking pretty good. Dose in towards behind. Cedar could be able to find 1. Will do. Remoy gonna fall. That's good enough. Now he has to just deliver 1 more, and the numbers go back in their favor. Fronting on towards the side. Monstrum will be picked out of the sky. King Guin's operator comes alive. Headhunter as well, looking for something, but it's Waddle who dropped Desmo. Spike tapped, and already now in a 2 versus 2. Half defused. King Guin 1 and a third 2. That's brilliant. First with the operator, the second 2, and the headhunter to clean things up. We're up to 9, and this game is going the distance.
Oh my god, did anyone... Okay, hands up in chat. Who thought we were going to get to this point? Like, I know Carter was like, oh, Heat win the pistol, and then Alliance close it out. And to be fair, that is still possible. Alliance can still close it out here. But this resurgence from Heat,
that works.
99 times out of 100, I count out a team who are 10-2 down. But Heat have proven that they have something to prove. But look at this eco once again. Kingian, bit of a tight spot. Okay, I think he's just... Surely he's just scrolled out. Surely there's a gun there. Come on.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe? Maybe.
Tour de force, I mean, he's got that.
Tour de force. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'll do.
Oh.
Tour de force and a shorty, I mean, sure.
The wombo combo.
Yeah.
The absolute wombo combo.
And the headhunter on top of that. I mean, he's got some serious firepower.
Oh, hang on a second. Speaking of, though, Lockdown's come on board. This is going to force Monster and Waddle to partner up into his back boathouse, or they're actually going to go slightly more aggressive, in fact. Lockdown not going to find too much. Actually, it's a slightly questionable one. It's very early pop as well, and there's kind of no decision made off the back of it. Remoy, nice flash to come through. Desmo will fall. Soren's in close. King Guga for a double. Remoy, 2 of his own 2. Flash in, maybe make it 3, and with ease. A extremely questionable round there. Sam, good luck analyzing it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm sure there was a thought process behind that one, but I couldn't tell you what it was. And I'd love to be able to ask NILLE. NILLE, hit me up on Twitter. Why? What was the thought process there? And this isn't me being rude. I genuinely want to know, because maybe there is a world where that works, but unfortunately here, it didn't. Maybe you're trying to force out a rotation. Maybe you're trying to pull people towards you, and unfortunately Heat just go, no lol. And they hold their angles and they shut it down. Yeah, well played.
Yeah, slightly questionable. I think it's safe to say Echo's going to be good for the first as well. Heat really chipping away. 1 left alive. It's not a Desmo in a 1 versus 5. I think potentially we could be knocking on the door of an OT here. There's a slight glass floor open up beneath Alliance. I think they'll be able to pick up a buy, but it won't be the most conclusive. 12-11. Sam, we have gone the full distance here. 4 buy to come through will be fine. Decent amount of utility coming out for Alliance too, but as you mentioned, I think OT's in the cards here.
I was not expecting an overtime.
Nope.
I genuinely was not. You thought it was going to be a swift 2-0. And look at where we are. And this is Heat's map pick, bearing in mind. So they convert, or they concede a lot of rounds in the first half, but man, have they battled it back. This, however, okay, this could be the linchpin round. Full stack towards A. We've seen Alliance do this before. It worked out well, but they had a lockdown. They don't have that now. But if they somehow win this round, they win the map. This is incredibly important for this team.
Will Alliance be able to pick up their first map? This is the round that could be the decider. Operator of Kinguin, good for the first. Actually going to go aggressive here. They're just going to try and step on the tempo a little bit. Going aggressive. Kinguin, good for one, but only. Will they clear the coast position? Doesn't make a difference either. Showstopper on board. It could be Deal Headley. Oh my God, Monstrum. What a brilliant showstopper. It's 2 versus 3 numbers in their favor. And now for Heat. They're so close to making this an overtime on the board. Looking for 12. Will they find a swing coming in? It's a 1-for-1 trade. NILLE needs to be flawless here. Flash will come in. Dink down to 32. Overtime is where we go. And it's all down to a beautiful showstopper there for Monstrum.
Oh my God. This is the first time we've seen Monstrum pull out a showstopper in front of like 1 person and then he dies. This time he pulls it out in front of 4, somehow survives and gets 2 kills for it. Look at this. It is obscene.
Yeah.
Oh man. This
They
game
were desperately
is
trying to get rid of him.
good. This game is just too good, man. So now, okay, so this is important because obviously we know how overtime works. You all start with 5,000 credits and you have to make something happen. And Alliance have struggled to make something happen here. You also have half ult points. So how are these teams going to feed potential ult orbs or, you know, kills into players to have ultimates online to give them a bit of an edge? This is going to be do or die. And it's only map 1. I'm saying do or die on map 1. I can't believe this.
Yeah, who would have thought? I mean, we are being treated here. Map number 1, and potentially there's still 2 more maps to follow suit. This is stunning. A lot more what's going online. Monstrum will get rid of it quite nicely. He's, of course, now on the attacking side. Need to a little bit better form than what we saw in towards their first attempt on the attacking side. Still, at 12 apiece, 10-2 both ways. Ridiculous. Remoy playing nice and passive here. Malfoy's gone aggressive, and in fact, that could be a nice opening backwards towards the A side. If he overextends, this now becomes very, very dicey. Paranoid's come through. Uh-oh, swinging in. Monstrum, good for 1. Remo, one of his own as well. Zoran in for at least the trade to bring it back to a 4 versus 3. They've double stacked in towards short and a ward to come through. Not in fact as well, as Monstrum finds one more. They've got a free path over towards this B side. And this is a brutal retake. A 2 versus 4 situation. Their attacking side, Stella, Zoran though, gives them a lifeline, extends it out, but it still needs to be 3 more kills and a defuse to keep Alliance in this.
Spike planted.
This is a crucial round for Heat because their attacking side was not great.
No.
So if they're able to win this one, and we've seen what they can do on their defensive half, you could be looking at a 14-12. I don't want to count Alliance out just yet because look at Soren go, but does he check the angle? Oh, there we go. This is still so doable.
Fate the teleport as well. Eccles, that's genius. But of course, he's still so far away. Potentially, actually, could even just go for the full stick here. And Cedar actually might. It's all about timing. Going to be able to find a half. He's trying to go the whole way. Will he get the timing? No! Eccles just about clutches it out with seconds to spare, moments to spare, and a little bit of BM just to add a cherry on top as Heat take map 1 advantage. They're 1 round away from taking it from a 10-2 hot first half. What a turnaround this has been.
All right, so I said it. Heat, their attacking half, pretty lackluster, but they do win their attacking side in overtime. Now they're on the defense. And look at Kingian. He's going full glass cannon. He's picked up that operator. We know how deadly he is with it. Let's see if he gets the value. Luckily for Alliance, they've all stacked on the other side of the map. But if he can push out, if he can get out into mid or something and get a pick off, maybe rotate around, I mean, this could be so deadly. Alliance have so much to do here, so much to work for. They need to win this round if they want to keep in it.
Exactly that. Now, of course, a very, very slow tempo here from Alliance. I think it's safe to say that they're feeling the pressure. As 1 round is all that Heat need to close things out map number 1. And, well, 1 round is all the Alliance need to be able to find something out of that starty. That Kinguin finds the opener. Desmo's going to fall 5 versus 4. And this story looking like it might be coming to a conclusion unless something special can be found here. Looking for more. Waddle, lovely. Nearly finding the second as well. Already just trying to buy some time as the rotation comes through. Monstrum finds Malfoy. Blast pack as well. Slight bit of damage to the sound cue. It's all they need. Spamming through, and it's all down to 1 man. Cedar only good for 1. Ladies and gentlemen, from a 10-2 deficit, they have gone flawless for 12 rounds. 14-12. Sam, I'm in shock. What have we just seen?
Good Valorant. There is
Good
nothing
Valorant.
I love more than good, close Valorant. Well done to both
Wow.
of these teams. Well done to Alliance. This is probably one of the closest series they've had. And on their opponent's map pick, you questioned my 2-1 prediction off the back of that map. I think it's more than possible. I'm doubling down on it. It's going to be a 2-1. I'm super impressed with what transpired here. I will say that the attacking half for both of these two teams was a little worrisome, and that's really what I'm going to be looking into as we head into the next map, potentially the next 2 maps, depending on who wins the next one, is how are they able to compensate for this first map, for what looked like a reasonably lackluster attacking half from both sides. Yes, HEET were able to clutch it out to the end. They were able to win the most important attacking half, which was the one in overtime, and then of course the follow-up defensive round, which we thought they were going to be able to come out on top of. So of course that means that they do win that first map, but you know, this is just the start. We're moving in onto Alliance's map pick. You've got to think, okay, well, they've picked into that one for a reason. They've got to have something up their sleeve. And if they perform this well on a map that wasn't theirs, the second map could be spicy.
Yeah, it really shows as well how important that both of those Kinguin clutches were. You know, on 2 occasions, he single-handedly put the team in his backpack and was able to pull all those clutches. One being the pistol round as well, which is so good for starting early bits of momentum. And, you know, if Kinguin didn't find the 3 kills and then the pros don't fake stick defuse there, we could have been in a completely different story of Alliance, just closing things out relatively quickly into the second half. But no, I mean, really, really nice performance from HEET. I'm so impressed with the resurgence from them. It's congratulations to HEET, but it's commiserations to Alliance. It was so close, yet so far. And now we look towards map 2. It's a different story. Take a look at, of course, the scoreboard at the end of that. MVP over towards
ACSs,
Alliance. NILLE, 237 ACS, as you mentioned, 22 kills, 1.9 KDA, but Kinguin, 1.4 KDA, 23 kills, 245 ACS, and a couple of clutches on top. I mean, what a performance from him, the stellar.
Oh, both of these two players just so good. I'm almost regretting that I didn't do the comparison between NILLE and Kinguin, but I wasn't expecting Kinguin to be heading in onto the Sentinel here. I was expecting him to be on, you know, his usual operator.
Yeah, for
operator? Sure. Well, he was on the operator, but I was expecting him to be on his usual duelist. Wow, what a performance from both of these two teams. And of course, Carter, you've lost all credibility as an oracle and as a predictor. So unlucky, mate. Better luck next map. And I will say, I just want to point this out. He did say that whoever wins map 1 wins the series. So we'll see if that does come to fruition.
Okay.
I think that was
All
that's obviously before we get the final score of the map. So I think he's going to live to eat those words. But yeah, I'm really impressed once again with how these two teams have performed. I've also really enjoyed the slight change up. As I said, you know, Kinguin usually playing the duelist role, swapping him over onto the chamber. And okay, a lot of Jet players tend to lean into the chamber as well, because there's a lot of similarity in it. And it's not just because of the fact that his ultimate is essentially an operator. So it is a slightly easier transition, but I'm looking forward to seeing if he's back on the actual duelist on Haven. I know that a lot of teams have been leaning into Raze on Haven as well. So there's every possibility that we see the Monstrum on the Raze again, and then the Chamber coming out. It's very, very possible. But I still do enjoy a good Jet on Haven. So hopefully we'll get to see at least a little bit of that.
Of course, now we focus our attention towards Haven, but before that, I need a breather. That was
seriously
unbelievable. We're going to throw this one to a quick break. When we are back, map number 2, that of Haven. Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We'll see you all in just a moment.
Oh my god, I don't know. It looks like Thanos. I'm checking Astra.
Bridge. Sova.
Sova.
Strong shoulder.
Sova.
Wait, it's not Fade? Wait, it's Sova?
Bro, you're the guy who's playing so.
What is it?
Just a Fade?
What's
I
happening?
was so confident. I actually thought it was Fade.
No server?
Omen. KO? KO? Okay, I got it.
What?
Bro, you just say every agent. What do you mean I got it?
Bridge?
Do you say breach all the time? I say
Guys, Brim.
Cypher.
Cypher.
I say it's Sova.
I said Sova.
Nah, no, sure. I'm a Sova main. I'm telling you, it's not a Sova. It's a Breach or a Brim.
Oh,
Ooh,
damn.
Brimstone main, let's go!
Sova?
Wait, it's
Oh.
not. That's
Bro,
not. That's
Devo
no
is
way.
trolling.
It's Sova. You guys are trolling. You guys are, this is not Sova. What is that?
Bro,
There's no
every
way.
agent looks like Sova.
Yeah.
Huh?
Jet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, my
Bro.
God.
No one plays Jet.
Bro. I should know this one.
Oh, that's cute. It's a cute little one.
Snowman. Which snowman is it though?
Yeah, which one is it?
I've been talking to that snowman for a while.
Oh no.
Devo. Oh my god.
Yeah, let's go.
My position is bad.
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was Icebox as well.
Yo, where's this at, man? I don't go looking at all the details.
What?
I'm pretty sure there's something in the sky outside.
Yeah.
It's like a spawn. Saying hello to me every
Same,
time
I
I
have
spawn
the
there.
same idea.
Yeah, it's the ice cream bit, innit?
Wait, what?
Oh,
Yes!
no.
I played the game too much, so.